All right, the watch list for March 14th, which will be Monday, and start off looking at the SPY. You can see I kept talking about how this thing's grinding higher. Looked like it was going to roll over now, back up now through the 200 day. I mean, you can't ignore the strength, right? Buyers are in control, longs are in control here. So again, it always, when the market does this, a slow grind in one direction, it always feels extended, but we're just going to keep playing and watching for the stocks we watch for, right? I build my list looking for individual stocks, and I make sure I'm not fighting the SPY. So here goes the list. This one's a little obscure, but it's TMST, steel stock. And if you look at US Steel, letter X, very strong. AKS, NUE, they're all very strong. TMST had a nice breakout out of this little flag pattern the other day, and now it's come back down and it's tailing along the 20 days. So the only way I'm going to play this is if I see really big strength in like US Steel, X, or Nucor. If those are ripping higher, then I like this kind of over this 3-day high as a sympathy play. And had a really nice move back here. So that one goes on watch, but certainly not my favorite. Weight Watchers is just in a range, but now it's getting close to the bottom of the range. This is WTW. It had big volume the other day that took it up to a little bit over 15. Then a big volume again, a big volume spike in the afternoon. So we had it on watch for Friday, and it did nothing. It gapped up and then just tailed off all day. Never gave me an entry. But now, it's pretty clear. You can see a range. In little ways, it looks like maybe a head and shoulders here. But anyway, I want to watch this one for a potential long. If this head and shoulders plays out to the downside, that'll be fine because it won't give me any trigger long. So I just want to keep my eyes on it. News has been coming out on it lately, and if it breaks out of this range, it looks good to me. So we'll keep it on bounce watch. Not in love with that one either. Box had earnings, gapped up on earnings, and then sold off all day, and then Friday, sold off again. It's got nice support around the $12 area, so this one goes on bounce watch. POM, what to say, this is kind of a crazy chart. Talks of blocking of the merger or something like that. This is interesting around 22 bucks any way you slice it. So it did have a nasty kind of pop and reversal on an intraday basis on Friday. You can see it here. It had to pop on news, and then I guess people went, whoops, that news wasn't good, and it came back down. So this has to go on bounce watch. It's extended to the downside, and I'd be scared to short this because any little news about hey, it looks like the merger's going to go through, and shorts could be in a heap of trouble in a hurry. So it's much more interesting long down here in this area when you look at how much time it's spent above this and how quickly it's gotten down to this area again. To me, it's much more interesting as a bounce play down here than a short. That's POM. AGEN had nice volume on Friday. I think it had a price target put on it significantly above where it is. Nice run here, and then kind of a sideways move, and then it's getting volume. So 60-minute candles, you can kind of see it. It's interesting to me, but I'm not in love with it. It generally, if you look at the daily candles, doesn't make too many big moves. So the only reason they caught my attention is the kind of extra volume on Friday. I would maybe look to take a long if it breaks Friday's high, which would be like 414, knowing that just to the left of that is 425. And above that, it might make a nice move. The 426 area is kind of a breakout. So you do have what we look for as far as, I call them stacked catalysts, break of Friday's high and then a break of that 425. So that one goes on watch. Not really in love with that one either. LEU, crazy short squeeze here, and then 2 days lower. And then tried to get going on Friday, but ended up closing kind of in the middle of its range. Switching to 15-minute candles. I actually have a potential kind of trigger price on this one at 267, which would be right over Friday afternoon's high, and then Friday's high would be the secondary catalyst of 277, and then maybe you start to head back up to 3. So this gets interesting up right about here, 267, looking for a pretty quick move to 277-ish, and then that would be a break of Friday's high, and that might get it going to 3. It's a low float. Matter of fact, as I'm talking, I'll look up the float real quick. And it did have good news that got us this spike. We had a huge trade in this, whatever day that was, like Tuesday, I think. 5.3 million in the float. All right, so that one's interesting for a continuation of Friday's bounce higher. SALT, nice pullback. This had a huge move, and then a very clean pullback to the 20-day moving average, and now you've got kind of a 2-day high right around $4. So this can get up over 4, like 404-ish. something like that, this one might make another move. Right now, it's just a nice flag and finding support. So no reason to think anything but long on that chart at the moment. NNVC, this one's kind of obscure because I generally like to focus on stuff that's had high relative volume recently, and I don't really see any massive spikes. It has had a nice run, but you can kind of picture a little flag here. If it gets up over Friday's high 269, you might start taking down these little spikes here and then maybe head back up to this whatever the spike was, 294. So you can, I'm not going to draw the lines, but you can picture the flag there. So that one's kind of interesting, but I don't really have a massive volume move in that lately, so that makes me like it a little bit less. CRC, one of these low-priced oil and gas plays. It had a really nice move here from under 50 cents to over $2, and it's holding, holding support here around $1.50, and then had a nice little pop on extra volume on Friday. So I do like it over Friday's high, which would be $1.76. Depending. If the market's tanking or something, forget it. So don't fall in love with any trigger price I give you, because I have to wait and see how the market trades. VCEL. Now this one's super extended, and this one just goes as deep as I'm going to have it on a chart. All right, I'm not looking for any certain type of move. It's really far away from the moving averages. It had a nice gap up on Friday and had a nice pop. I actually made like $600 in this one on Friday as this went red to green after the open as a gap play. But you can see what it did after that, and that's why I'm a day trader. It ended up, closing near its lows. I'd like to see this come in for another day or two, and then you get a really nice setup for another move higher. It's getting, speaking of high recent relative volume, right? 30 million shares on Thursday, 16 million on Friday. This is one to watch. I just like to see it come in a little bit more. Fitbit, FIT. Trying to break out of this little island down here to the upside. Probably a lot of shorts in this one. I didn't look it up, but I'll glance at it real quick. 17 million in the float. I don't see the short position on the website I use, but I think it had good news on Friday. So we'll continue that. Look for a red to green, something like that, on Monday. And then a couple, speculative play. Well, they're all speculative to me, but a couple interesting plays that are worth having on a chart for the next several days. GBIM. Big spike in volume, 5 million shares, and held up pretty well. So maybe a red to green in that one. And SZYM, let me go back real quick. I didn't type that right. SZYM. One thing I want to check on that GBIM. Another reason I like it, 4.8 million in the float. So that one could get going. And then this SZYM, a nice volume spike. Certainly had issues back here with 2, and again here with 2. Maybe get a red to green and then a push through 2, and you could get a nice a nice percentage gain in a very short period of time on something like this. That's more than I'm comfortable watching. Plus, we're going to add gappers in the morning. But there's the watch list for Monday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.